all the technology has failed me today, one way or another. So hang in there for a minute. I'm just getting this cranked up. I'm going to take a moment to see if what kind of indication I get that the YouTube has started up live. And okay, it's on my tablet. Tablet knows we're live. Cool. Tablet knows we're live. But the website, or rather the just the ordinary browser version of the show, it doesn't know. Let's see if I refresh. Yeah, and now it says live now. So it wasn't going to tell me until I banged on it a little bit. All right. Get things set up where they need to be to actually do the show. And let's do the show. This is the Triangle Talk Show. No, that's not the way I start the show. Here's how I start the show. I need a script here in front of me. From the studio in the bonus room above the garage on the north side of Cary. That's the way I start the show. This is the Triangle Talk Show. For May 11th, 2018, Episode 7, Poli-Tech. It sounds like a school. It's not. This is a combo show. A little politics and a little technology. And do the politics first. But even before that, but first, well, yeah, I get to say my name. I'm Gary Pierce, and enough of that. Before we do that, my day. By the way, I'm wearing the Blue Wave shirt here. Actually, it's a volunteer shirt for Bike MS, a Muscular Sclerosis Society event that I volunteer with a lot. So speaking of bike, today was a great morning until the technology all started to fall apart on me here trying to do the show. Got on my bicycle. I've been cranking up the bike quite a bit lately, and getting out there and riding, and rode up into the single track territory at Crabtree Park, which is not too far away. You know, I live here on the north side of Cary, and that is right off I-40 by Harrison Avenue. But I went out to the bicycle the day before yesterday, and was about to take it off the wall in the garage, and this inner tube that I'm showing the camera, pretty compelling for the folks in the audio stream. This inner tube had failed. In fact, right at the valve stem. Can you listen? The tube is probably 6-7 years old. I think probably first one on that bike, although I'm not sure. And of course, it was the rear tire, which meant taking chain off and a fair amount of work to get the rear tire off and then replace it. And I'm really impressed with myself because I did that. I am not the world's most mechanically inclined. I've probably changed a bike tire or 3 in my life over a long period of time, but I actually did this one, and then looked at the gears and everything and said, "Ooh, this needs to get cleaned up before I get back on this bike." Hadn't been maintained other than just, you know, putting grease on the chain, which got itself in all the gears, so they were all grungy. So I took out the cleaning stuff and hung the bike up on the bike rack on the back of the car, cleaned it all up. It now looks semi-gorgeous. Not quite as good as a bike shop would do, but not too bad. And it shifts a lot better, too. Everything seemed to work better. And I got, yeah, that's the other impressive thing. I got the tire changed. I got the tube changed. Got everything back on the bike, and everything worked, as evidenced by going up into the single track trail. That's the part of the territory at the south end of the airport that has been in the news quite a bit about getting, what's going to happen with that. If I'm recalling correctly, a decade ago or more, a local bike club just started building trails in the hills just above the Lake Crabtree Park. I don't know if they had official permission to do that, or if they just kind of did it. And the park seems to have adopted it since, no matter how it got started. That there's signs and maps and stuff, and it's pretty official. But that's the territory that is. The future of it is kind of open to question, because the airport needs to decide what they're going to do with the property. And in fact, as I was riding, I encountered a guy who, this was his first ride in that territory. He was from up in the north side of Raleigh, and just looking for interesting places to ride. The single track, you need a mountain bike, or at least a hybrid. I think I've got a hybrid. It's not something you want to take a street bike on. And the terrain is they've got some beginner terrain, some intermediate terrain, and some very challenging, somewhat expert terrain. Probably compared to riding in real mountains, not expert. But for riding around here, you got to have a little bit of skill. And so he just coming down to a new place to ride. And I was telling him about how, you're in this territory that they're figuring out what to do with the property for the airport. And he said, I work at the airport. And you're right. The FAA has reduced funding and said, and the FAA has to sign off on anything that they decide to do. The FAA has, cut funding and says, you got to come up with your own funding sources, and you have to pick something that's going to make the best use of the property or whatever you've got. So the folks that have been championing making more serious use of the bike area off of Crabtree Park have said, well, let's make it a serious bike and recreational destination, and put in shops and restaurants and stuff like that, and make it someplace that that people will really want to go to for more serious recreation. I don't have the details on that, and maybe someday we'll find some of the folks that are responsible for that and get them on the Triangle Talk Show someday when we have an audience. How many people actually voted? I talked to, in the previous episode, a few of the folks that had come in to vote on actual election day last Tuesday, and doing their civic duty. And I asked everybody the same question, or it said, it's a primary. Nobody votes in a primary. That's really not the message that I want to get out here on this program. I want the message of it takes people participating at the level of voting. The very bottom line, and I don't think I've expressed this before, the very bottom line of why I'm doing this show is that no matter how you feel about the way things are, the way things are run by your government at the various levels, the bottom line for doing something about that, besides going out to protests and to whatever other civic involvement that you're going to be involved in, the bottom line is you have to vote. Decide who you're going to vote for, and then go vote and try to get the people that are going to do something like what you want elected. Get them in office. Harder than it looks. All right. So, what was the deal? Looking at some of the vote totals, in the congressional election in the Democratic Party for District 4, David Price got a raw vote total of almost 52,000 votes, 77%. Michelle Laws and I got Watkins, I don't have the first name here, were the challengers in the Democratic primary. And they were way back. Laws, 11,000, and Watkins, 4,300. David Price, 51,989. So clearly he was the fellow that people wanted to be in Congress, at least for the Democratic Party. He will have opposition from a Republican. Not sure who that is. I didn't make that note for doing this show. Probably a hopeless case for the Republican in this district because the Republicans have gerrymandered us Democrats into the 4th district and made it one of the few safe Democratic seats. In District 3, which is the east of Raleigh, George Holding is the Republican who's got that. And I think that's one of those districts that could possibly flip if there's a blue wave. Could possibly. I don't know. What's interesting is the Republicans voting in the primary for him. He won the primary with 17,655 votes. And his opponent in the Republican primary, a guy named Chesser, 5,400. So there's David Price with 51,989, almost 52,000 votes in his primary. George Holding, 17,600. Price brought out the vote. And the other election I was looking at was my own little 16th district in the North Carolina Senate, and that was Wiley Nickel and Louis Toledo. And that was closer, although Wiley Nickel won handily, 8,542 votes, 55%. Louis Toledo, 6,842, so not quite 7,000. So, 1,500 votes between them or so, roughly. So Wiley won pretty well, but there were a lot of Toledo supporters as well. In the other election that I was looking at, and sooner or later I'm going to get myself out of Wake County and out of Cary and talk about stuff that's going on elsewhere around the Triangle. This is not the North Cary talk show, but that one of those first episodes, the little picture, it's kind of where I'm starting. We'll get bigger, maybe with your help. The Wake County Board election. The primary, because there's going to be Republican opponents for everybody we're talking about here. The primary was split between challengers and incumbents. In general, if I kind of think that that's a good thing if there are multiple sides to an issue and everybody gets a little piece of it. That splitting things up, kind of a good thing. The News and Observer's Ned Barnett doesn't think so. He ran an editorial yesterday. He said the split in the primary may open the door for some Republicans to take on the board this fall. He also said the debate wasn't really about school funding because everybody running, and we've been saying that the controversy was between the incumbents on the school board, who are responsible for funding everything going on in the county, and some of the challengers who were very school board focused, who wanted the county board to take to lean more heavily toward school board funding. The county board has funded the school board pretty well, but not as well as the school board wanted. So not the challengers were lined up toward more school board funding. Okay, but Ned Barnett says the debate wasn't really about school funding. Everybody involved agreed that we need more funding. It was about challengers and donors who felt patronized or ignored. So somewhat personal. And I'm not sure how that personal message got out to voters. Is that the way you read it? Because, I didn't read it that way. I didn't see that. It's not that it wasn't true. I'm not saying it wasn't the way it was. I'm saying that as the controversy reached my eyes, it didn't look that personal. Okay, so this was just the primary. There were 5 of the 7 Democratic primary winners, and 5 of them will have a Republican and or a Libertarian challenger coming up in the November election. And Ned Barnett is kind of worried that the folks from the school board are going to look like all they want to do is spend more money on schools, raise your taxes, and the Republicans will take advantage of that and say they're going to raise your taxes. You better vote Republican. Well, we'll see. That won't happen until November, although you start hearing about it on advertising probably in August. Depends on how much money they've got to spend. As I was gearing up for this show, I was teaching myself more about what was in these races. And fortunately, this was pretty simple. Because for me, there was only Congress, state Senate, county board. Most, and primary elections, that's pretty much all there's going to be. They can throw some other stuff into a primary, but for a primary, that's pretty much all there is. And the folks that I talked to at the polling place had done some research on that. One of them had done a lot. One had done the top of the ticket, but not really the county board stuff. That wasn't a really, in-depth focus group, just a few people. But my experience has always been, I may know who's going to be at the top of the ticket, even for a primary, but not the lower level races. So I decided to look into them harder. And I wanted to find endorsements, and I didn't really find that much. I didn't find as much guidance as I wanted to get. And it turns out I missed some guidance, and I'm going to show the folks watching the video, show a website. This is from a publication in the Triangle called Indie Week. And I, like most publications, used to be print when I got here. I saw it. I didn't look at it all the time. Is the Spectator still around? I don't know. But there are 2 independent publications around here, the Spectator and Indie Week. And I don't know if the Spectator's still around. I don't remember seeing them in a long time. But Indie Week is still around. I don't know if they print a print edition anymore or not. But they certainly got a website that has a lot of stuff on it. And they had a lot of endorsements on their website. I put a link on the Triangle Talk Show website. The endorsements don't mean very much right now because you've already voted, or somebody's already voted. But this is what in many of the elections around the area, and they cover the whole triangle, this is what they were recommending. Just a couple of them in District 4, they were endorsing David Price. And they said that they think the world of his opponent, Michelle Laws, but Price is a local institution. And now I think Indie Week is probably going to, I haven't dug into it a lot. I think they're going to show themselves to be pretty progressive, liberal, left-leaning progressive, but they did go with David Price for U.S. Congress. They endorsed Luis Toledo, who did not win the election. They said it was a close call, but Luis is thoughtful, well-informed, and pragmatic. There was a race I didn't talk about at all for NC House. It's the one that Dwayne Hall had. The incumbent had been accused of sexual harassment, and he denied it. But those, in the Me Too era right now, those things are getting a lot of attention, and we are, at least at the present time, tending to believe women who are making those accusations more than men who are denying them, and in a very difficult situation of figuring out, he said, she said, with things that are hard to prove. So Dwayne Hall was running for re-election. He lost, and Indy had endorsed Allison Dahl. It says, even if you gave Dwayne Hall every benefit of the doubt, it's hard to see him being effective. So what they're saying is, yeah, okay, so Dwayne, if you didn't do it, then you're getting a raw deal. But even if we elect you, you're going to have a hard time getting anything done in the legislature, because you're going to always have this hanging over your head, or at least for a long time. So Indy Week went with Allison Dahl, and she won. Surprised the hell out of her. And the last one I'm going to look at is the Wake County Board of Commissioners. There's a bunch of others. And if you're from someplace else around the county or around the Triangle area, Durham County, Orange County, Johnston, Franklin, Chatham. Yeah, got to get them all. You might be more interested in some of the other endorsements, no matter who you actually voted for. But for the county commissioners, they actually endorsed the slate of incumbents. They said, when you look at the incumbents' entire body of work, there's little reason to ditch them. And, of course, they got some of those incumbents were in and some were not. And you might hear a little bit of noise in the background. When I pushed the button, my wife was in her office, which is just around the corner here from the studio above the garage. Studio in the bonus room above the garage. And everything was quiet. Now she's on a business conference call, and it is apparently a fun call. She's exclaiming a lot. You might hear it a little bit in the background. I don't know. My noise reduction stuff may be working. We'll see. The Indy Week also had a column about the money issue that Ned Barnett says was not really what this election was all about, between the school board and the county board. Okay, so Ned, personalities and stuff. But the Indy Week has an interesting blog story from Jeffrey Billman that said, what if there was a simple way to keep the North Carolina school boards and county commissioners from fighting over money? And what he says in that article is that the North Carolina is unusual. There's only a few states that don't let school boards levy their own taxes. And that is sort of the problem, because the school board sets school policy, but they can't raise their own money. The county stays out of school policy, but they are the ones that tell the school board how much they're going to be able to get. And the school board has not gotten their full funding, the full requests. Is that a typical sort of bargaining, negotiating that everybody does? How much do you need? I need 100. I'll give you 50. That's 75. I'll give you 60. 65. 60 and 250. Haggling. Is that the way it is when the school board, they give the number they really need up front, or do they give a number that's inflated, figuring it's going to get knocked back down? I don't know. I don't spend any time there. So is there a simple way to divide that up? And apparently North Carolina is one of the few places in the nation that has the school board having to go to their county board to get money. So maybe North Carolina should shift the job from the county commissioners to the school board itself, and let them levy their own taxes and justify them and get the voters to approve them. Because if you do that, and they say, here's how much we need, and we're going to float a bond issue or do a tax increase or whatever mechanism they're going to use for getting their next set of funding, their next budget. If they push too hard, a bond issue would be rejected, or eventually the board members would be voted out. So it tends to put a lid on what they're going to request. As it is right now, they just go to the county board with whatever number they have managed to come up with. The county board takes the heat for whether there's going to be a tax increase to pay for it or not. It's not really a black and white issue. Some folks say county commissioners can weigh all the expenditures and requests for taxes among all the competing interests in the county. And in this election, there was some talk about a competing interest for funding a park in, I think, Garner. That was one of the issues that came up. But they've got a lot of other things that need funding. And so maybe if we have them weigh everything on behalf of us citizens and taxpayers, they'll come up with something that is more balanced. So, what it occurs to me, I don't know if this fight is happening in other North Carolina counties or not. I just thought about that. I haven't had time to research that today. But Cindy is having a great time back there. And this is not the soundproof studio above the garage in the bonus room. All the doors are open. So I don't know. I haven't heard, is Durham County having that fight? Johnston County? Chatham County? I think that this is a statewide thing where the school boards and the county commissioners split the duties between funding and policy. Well, I don't know. Anyway, if you want to look at the rest of the blog from Jeffrey, I'll put a link on the Triangle Talk Show website, and you can take a look at that. Or, they're at indieweek.com, INDYWEEK.com. But there's so much there. It's a big, full website of news and entertainment that you might have a hard time finding it. All right, let's go to the tech stuff. That's the end of the politics stuff. Did I say the name of the show? I'm not sure. I actually gave the name. I'm trying to remember if I did or not. Google's gonna replace me. Yeah, I remember saying it was a Poli-Tech show, but I don't think I put the name. I don't think I said it. I had it on screen. Could barely fit it into the box I have for the title. Google's gonna replace me. Oh, really? Well, there's been an event going on in California for something called Google I/O. It's their developers conference, and it's going to be real super geeky and super techy, but they do spend some time just talking about stuff that will come out for people like you and me, and then the rest of the conference is for the folks that develop that. So one of the things that eventually will come out for people like you and me is something called the digital assistant. And as they demonstrated it, Google's CEO, Sundar Pichai, described it as, actually, I think I've got him describing it. Now, I picked this stuff up from a website called The Verge, but this demonstration came straight from Google I/O, and lots of sites have it. I think you can see it just on plain old YouTube, but I think he does a pretty good job of explaining what it is, and then you will hear it, and then I'll talk about it a little bit more. But this is the voice of Google CEO Sundar Pichai.
Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut.
Okay, that's not his voice.
I'm looking for something on May 3rd.
Let's say you want to ask Google to make you a haircut appointment on Tuesday between 10 and noon. What happens is the Google Assistant makes the call seamlessly in the background for you. So what you're going to hear is the Google Assistant actually calling a real salon to schedule the appointment for you. Let's listen.
So how can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd.
Okay, so you're following what's going on so far? The hair salon answered. And then the next voice, the voice that is saying, I'm calling to book a haircut appointment, women's haircut appointment, that's not a human. That's the Google digital assistant. And it's not pre-programmed. It's only pre-programmed in that whoever was getting the services of the assistant said, this is what I want, go get it. And it made the phone call, and it is now talking in real time with somebody, the receptionist at a hair salon. So keep on playing here.
Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around?
Now, you heard the audience laugh, and the reason why the audience laughed, I'll back that up and play it again, is the assistant did the Google digital assistant and artificial intelligence thing did a little time waster. It said, I'm going to play that again. I'm also going to move the screen for those of you that are watching the video so I can do an over the shoulder for it. Yeah, let's play that again. Listen, the comes from a computer doing a little time wasting.
1 second.
One more time.
Calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15.
Okay, keep in mind, this is not a scripted, pre-programmed conversation. The digital assistant may have some programming ideas about what it's going to encounter, but it doesn't know for sure.
Have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.? Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for? Just a woman's haircut for now. Okay, we have a 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. is fine. Okay, what's her first name? The first name is Lisa. Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd.
And one of the things that the articles that I've read and that some of the talk is that, in attempting to make this as realistic as possible, they have fine-tuned this robot voice to sound very much like a human. And once again, let me play back again where they're asking about the name.
She would like. What service is she looking for? Just a woman's haircut for now. Okay, we have a 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. is fine. Okay, what's her first name? The first name is Lisa.
You hear that? A robot would say, the first name is Lisa. The first name is Lisa. The way a woman or man very much may say it. They fine-tuned it that way.
Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd. Okay, great. Thanks. Great. Have a great day. Bye.
Audience goes nuts.
That was a real call you just heard. The amazing thing is the assistant can actually understand the nuances of conversation. We've been working on this technology for many years. It's called Google Duplex. It brings together all our investments over the years in natural language understanding, deep learning, text-to-speech. By the way, when we are done, the assistant can give you a confirmation notification saying your appointment has been taken care of. Let me give you another example. Let's say you want to call a restaurant, but maybe it's a small restaurant which is not easily available to book online. The call actually goes a bit differently than expected. So take a listen.
And before I continue playing it, something to pay attention to is that the person at the restaurant has an accent, and their speech is not super easy to understand. So a particularly complex situation.
speaking. How may I help you?
Hi, I'd like to reserve a table for Wednesday the 7th.
For 7 people?
It's for 4 people.
Okay, the male voice is the computer.
4 people when? Today?
Next Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Oh, actually we reserve for like upper like 5 people. For 4 people you can come.
So if they have some text on the screen, and if you're watching the video, you can see that they have interpreted what the woman at the restaurant said, which was that they won't take a reservation for 4 people. It's 5 or above, and if it is just 4 people, you can just come. But the speech is difficult there, and how she phrased it was not particularly easy to understand. Let me play that again for you.
Next Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Oh, actually we reserve for like upper like 5 people. For 4 people you can come.
How long is the wait usually to be seated?
So she's saying if it's just 4 people, you can just show up, and the computer understood that and said, well, how long would the wait be if we just show up?
For when, tomorrow or weekday or?
For next Wednesday, the 7th.
Oh no, it's not too busy. You can come for 4 people, okay?
Oh, I gotcha. Thanks.
Bye bye.
So I think it got her. Although, if I were talking like that and I didn't want to say, what did you say? I didn't understand you. I might have just said, I got you too. I don't know. So there's going to be one more, but Sundar's going to talk a little bit more about it.
Again, that was a real call. We have many of these examples where the calls quite don't go as expected, but the assistant understands the context, the nuance. It knew to ask for wait times in this case and handle the interaction gracefully. Look, we're still developing this technology, and we actually want to work hard to get this right, get the user experience and the expectation right for both businesses and users. But done correctly, it'll save time for people and generate a lot of value for businesses. We really want it to work in cases, say if you're a busy parent in the morning and your kid is sick and you want to call for a doctor's appointment. So we're going to work hard to get this right. There is a more straightforward case where we can roll this out sooner, where, for example, every single day we get a lot of queries into Google where people are wondering on the opening and closing hours of businesses. But it gets tricky during holidays, and businesses get a lot of calls. So we as Google can make just that one phone call and then update the information for millions of users, and it'll save a small business countless number of calls. So we're going to get moments like this right and make the experience better for users. This is going to be rolling out as an experiment in the coming weeks, and so stay tuned.
Right. Well, stay tuned. Getting the stuff on my screen back into the place where I need to have it, and that's pretty impressive. Google has been working on making computer voices sound very much like human voices, and although that was restricted by the telephone sound, that helps. If you're listening to full fidelity, someone talking into a big, I don't know, if a computer needs to talk into a microphone, a computer will just send out the sound. But if you're listening to it full fidelity, you might have gotten a little bit more computer from it. I don't know. Again, there's a lot of tech sites that have that video. I will link to the Verge site, and you can look at it yourself. But if you just go to YouTube and ask for, what do they call it? Duplex, Google Duplex. Give it a try. I imagine that they cherry-picked the successful calls, especially the ones that showed the challenge. Those two showed some challenge, and that they didn't demo the failures. So I don't know what the ratio was. I'm guessing that they They pick the good ones. It is still pretty impressive, and it's going to be a while before we get it. I have run into that situation where I want to find out if a restaurant is open, and look it up on Google, and it will say, yes, it's open, but then I realize, well, no, today is Christmas or New Year's, and don't know if they'll be open. So you call them and find out. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. So what they're saying is that they will make their computers call in a few days ahead of the holiday to everybody that they've got a question about. And that one call will let people like me and hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, millions more people know, well, for any one restaurant, dozens or hundreds, what the actual holiday opening is. So, yay, and then, is this always a good thing? Might there be an evil component to it? Well, certainly a lot of tech bloggers are working on that right now, and I haven't seen it much in the general media, but it's you're going to hear about that. What they demonstrated, pretty cool. What if that technology gets in the hands of a robocaller? I mean, I get plenty of robocalls, and I can usually tell that that's what I'm getting. Even if they start with my name, that's kind of a giveaway. But if they don't say my name, then it's pretty likely to be a robocaller. There was a time when we all would ask and say, "Are you a robot?" And the answer was, "No, I'm not. There's a live person here." They would never say they're not a robot. Those were pre-programmed responses. And what it turned out was that there was a person behind it. It was just not somebody who could talk on the phone. It was somebody who could push some buttons and bring up pre-programmed responses. And then this was their way of pre-selecting from the audience, from the folks that they were calling. And if it looks like you were going to be a candidate for something, they would hand you off to the live person to close the deal, whatever that was. Okay. Next tech topic. There was a story in the News and Observer about the North Carolina Department of Transportation, a project that they've got going to test the use of drones to carry medical supplies around the state. And it has been approved by the federal government. It's only one of 10 that the FAA has approved for unmanned, they call it the Unmanned Aircraft Systems Integration Pilot Program. And it's a program to determine how to safely expand drone use in the U.S. So hundreds of applications were sent in, 10 were accepted. One of them is North Carolina DOT. And they're going to be working with several private companies to set up a network of distribution centers that will use drones to deliver blood and other medical supplies faster than can be done right now. And that made me wonder, well, how fast and how far a commercial delivery drone can travel. And this particular program didn't have those details, but I looked up some stuff on the web from Amazon, from the drones that Amazon is planning on using. And the best story I came up with gave me information that said, well, it's pretty much limited by batteries. If you played with drones, you've really only got a few minutes of playtime for the drones that are available on the consumer market. Somewhere between 10, 15 minutes or so. It's what those drones are capable of doing. The commercial ones, the ones that are that Amazon is planning on using, do a little better, but it's still pretty limited right now. And of course, anything with technology is going to improve over time. This story is about a year old that I was looking at. And what they were saying was that the delivery range from whatever hub they're starting at is only about 7 miles. It's going to be a round trip of less than 15 miles. So 7 miles out, 7 miles back. They can scoot. Top speed of about 60 miles an hour. They will fly less than 400 feet up. That's the FAA rule for a drone. The website that I was looking at is a site called Digital Spy. Digital Spy. And what they were saying was that you would need a landing pad. There's the on the video. There's the Digital Spy story. There's their drone. They would say that you would need to put out a landing pad and have a place designated specifically for the drone to go, so that it wouldn't be just dropping something on your doorstep. There's no scale here. It looks to be maybe, I don't know, 10 by 10 or so. There's a tree in the side and a fence, and but no people standing in there, so it's a little bit hard to get scale. But I'm going to say that's about 10 by 10. So that would limit this service to people that have some space. A single-family house might be tough for a high-rise or an apartment building. Those places could build some common areas to be used as a landing zone. And the delivery timing is precise. It'll tell you how many minutes and seconds it is away and can send that to your phone. So if you're in a common area, well, you can be standing there waiting, or you can send back, nope, I can't be there right now. Hold off, even a minute before the delivery is supposed to take place. So back to the North Carolina medical story. I'm guessing deliveries to medical facilities like hospitals, clinics, labs, more controlled situation. So it's a start. I'll put a link to that story on the Triangle Talk Show website as well. Got one more, I think. At least one more. You've heard about the Uber problem, the self-driving car fatality. An Uber self-driving car hit a woman walking her bike across a dark street in Arizona. Later on, she died from her injuries. I wondered about a follow-up. What's going on with that? It just happened. We haven't heard very much about it. Well, there have been some tech stories about it. Again, not hitting the general media very much. I came across a story in Recode, which is a tech website. It was based on a story from a website called The Information. And The Information is a paid paywall, heavy-duty paywall website, $400 a year. So we won't have access to that directly, but I'm looking at the stuff from Recode. And they said that the Uber car that killed the woman in Arizona had been tuned to not react quickly to ambiguous sensor readings. Say what? All right, here's the deal. Autonomous car sensors detect a lot of things. Other cars, side of the road, people walking across the street, people with bicycles walking across the street, and a lot of things that they don't want to react to. I mean, those are all things they would want to react to. A lot of things that they don't, like a paper bag that's getting blown across the street. The programmers have to find a balance in how the car reacts to those things. If a car is tuned to be sensitive to everything it sees, it's going to be a very uncomfortable ride for the passenger in the car. It's going to jam on the brakes or swerve every time there's something that it thinks it sees. And since its sensors reach out a pretty long way and can react to things gradually that it knows about, these are going to be the reactions to things that come up at the last second. And it's got to make a quick decision. What do I do? If it's always, I'm going to avoid whatever it is, it's going to be a real herky-jerky ride. Slam on the brakes, step on the gas, dodge left, dodge right. They can't sell that. Uber can't sell that. No self-driving car is going to sell a car that does that. So they have to tune the car, tune the software to react less. They want it to still always catch the critical stuff, like a person on a bicycle or your family pet. What about a squirrel? Squirrel versus cat or dog. Can it tell? Well, I know, given a little time, the picture recognition can tell your dog from everybody else's dog or your cat, and probably, are they going to decide it's okay to hit a squirrel, but not a cat or a dog? I don't know. They're not there yet, I don't think. An interesting question, though. The information says that Uber's engineers deliberately tuned the software for a more comfortable ride. Let me say that again. The information says Uber's engineers deliberately tuned the software for a more comfortable ride. Uber says they can't talk about it. It's a continuing investigation. So I'm wondering here, could Uber as a company or individuals from the CEO on down to the engineers that made the decision on how to tune the software, can they be held liable for negligent homicide? Okay, so that's serious. They killed someone. And if it was you driving the car and you just didn't see him and you hit him, you could be tried for negligent homicide, vehicular homicide. It's not capital murder, but it's something serious. And if you found to be negligent, you would have a penalty and you might even go to jail. So I've found some editorials about that, but there's been no action in court yet. I'm not even sure that anyone has filed that charge. Does this make you say, never, never, ever to self-driving cars? Either just for yourself, so that means you're not going to ever get into one, or as legislation for everybody, you and me. No, it's not ever going to happen. Well, I think self-driving cars are on the way. I don't think there's going to be legislation that will prohibit them permanently, but may slow them down a little bit. You might also think, well, there will always be some accidents. Even when they get the self-driving car working pretty well, it's not going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. But overall, once the bugs have been worked out and we make them as safe as reasonably possible, it is going to be way safer than human drivers. Because after all, we are mostly terrible drivers. Except, of course, for me and you. We're fine. But everybody else, it's that somebody's going slower than you, they're an idiot. Someone driving faster than you, they're a maniac. Your speed, they're okay. And then finally, will self-driving cars always use turn signals? One of my beefs about drivers. Can't get anybody to use a turn signal out there. And so a related thought. I heard someone on one of the tech shows talking about the self-driving cars, but not the total self-driving cars, just the ones with some of the assistance technology. The ones that'll stop if you're not stopping and this car in front of you is stopping, they'll put on the brakes for you. And let me divert here for a moment and talk about some of the commercials that I've seen, because the car companies that want to sell you this assistance technology have to walk a fine line between telling you that it's okay to be a terrible driver because the car is going to take care of it for you, and not leaving that impression. So watch the commercials for the assistance technology, especially the ones that stop the car. They'll work real hard on, you got distracted, but it was for a reasonable thing. Something had happened and you were distracted. There's one of the commercials that has found a way around this. They're supposed to be crashing a car for a movie, and the car won't crash. Very clever. They figured out a way to talk about how a car will avoid a crash without making it look like you're a terrible driver because you're going to get into a crash. All right, back to the script. The cars with assistance technology, in addition to stopping the car, they will change lanes for you. You put on your turn signal indicating you'd like to be in the next lane, and the car will turn the wheel. And some of the folks on one of the tech shows I was listening to were surprised at how fast the car did that. I mean, turn signal, boom, change lanes. Well, I realized that the car doesn't need to think about the lane change. It's not like a human where you decide you need to change lanes and you look to the next lane and you check the mirror, maybe even look over your shoulder, and you get your situational awareness, which we're all supposed to have all the time anyway, but we won't have it consistently. So we have to figure it out. In theory, we've had our turn signal on during this time. Once again, most people won't. In fact, for changing lanes, nobody uses the turn signal except me, and it confuses people when I do. So we look around, and then we decide it's okay, and then we just change lanes. At least that's the way it's supposed to work. I don't know. Too often, I don't think people even check. They just go. But the car is constantly monitoring the environment. It doesn't have to go check. It knows. So you tell it you want to change, and if the lane is clear, zoom, it changes. If the lane were not clear, then I don't think it would have done it wouldn't do the instant lane change. So we humans, though. Turn on the signal, look around, then move. Yeah, we don't do that. So that takes us back to the autonomous. They're not going to be economous. The autonomous cars being better drivers. They won't need to signal way ahead. They know they don't need to. So here's a question. How much space do they calculate they need? Are they going to zip right in front of you, turning you into a tailgater? Because, they got the 1.5 car lengths. Are they going to signal for a while if you're a little bit close to them? Or are they not going to signal because the programmer assumes that you're going to be a jerk and close the gap, just like a human driver would? Well, this is all going to be way better when it is all autonomous vehicles, because they're going to be negotiating everything they do with each other and almost never flipping each other the bird. I'm not sure how they do that, but I suppose they could. When we get to the all autonomous vehicle point, then the cars talk to each other. You come up to it could change everything. Four-way stop signs, wouldn't need them because everybody's approaching an intersection, and the cars all know where they are and which one's going to stop and which one's going to go, and smooth things out. It's going to be great. Let me check the comment section. Oh, yes. You can take the wheel out of my cold, dead hands. Expected that. Yeah, I'm not really reading comments here, but I wouldn't be surprised. That's what goes on. All right. I needed to do something that I failed to properly prepare myself for. So let me see if I can find this quickly. The last thing in tech, if I get there, I got a robocall. I don't know if I can find this. I got too many things where I might have stored this. There. Yeah. Okay. I think I'm here. Let me make sure I am. Yeah. This is it. Okay, I have a little technical difficulty. I got this phone call. Oh, yeah, on my phone. Well, where else would you get a phone call? And I've had this many times before. This is what they're saying. This is a pre-record, even though I sound like me. Hello. Play, you stupid phone.
It seems to be someone is trying to hijack your computer and try to steal your personal information. If it's not fixed right away, then your computer will become off, so leaking all of your credential information may got compromised. If you are the one who is using Microsoft Windows in your computer, then please call 845-478-9802 or press 1 now to speak with the security team now. Please ignore if we called you by mistake. Thanks.
Okay, well, 1 won't work because That was a recording, but let's give this a try. Come on, phone. I think I have to speed this up because I think it took a while to get through there.
Still wondering why you receive a call from us. We called you because your computer seems to be hijacked and we are getting some errors and warnings from your computer.
Of course they are.
Please turn on your computer while we are connecting your call to our experts.
Okay, it's on. Fast forward a little bit here. You guys called me.
Thank you for calling technical support. How can I help you?
You guys called me. I just called back because you were asking about my computer.
We called you because the computer is sending some error and warnings to our server. It seems to be someone is trying to hijack your computer from past few days. That's why we called you.
Okay, who are you?
We are Microsoft certified technician.
You are a Microsoft certified technician. Are you Microsoft or an independent company?
We are a dependent company. We are the company which is hired by Microsoft. Our company name is Social Apps Inc.
Shosho Apps Inc.?
Yes.
Okay, and you're looking at my computer. How are you doing that?
Yes, sir. Your computer has been hijacked. Some people are trying to get into your computer and steal your personal information.
How do you know that? How are you looking in my computer?
Because all the computers are connected with our servers, so whenever any problems arise in Microsoft computer or any other, then they send warning message to us, okay? That's how we call you.
My computer is connected to your server?
All the computers, all the Microsoft computers are connected with our server.
They are not. I didn't know that. How does that happen?
How does this happen? I'll say you that, sir. All the computers are connected with our server. So whenever any problems arise in that's why we call you and resolve your problems.
Okay. All computers are connected to your server. I didn't know that. I've been doing computers for a fairly long time. I didn't know that happened.
Yeah. So please come in front of the computer and turn it on.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm ready to follow instructions.
Yeah, please open your browser.
It's a very busy...
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Very busy call center that guy is in.
Open your browser.
Browser, okay. All right, let's see. I was actually going to do it, but wherever they sent me, I wasn't going to go very far. Okay, I've got a browser open.
Okay, sir, I'll do that.
He's going to bail on me. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I got a browser open. I'm ready for you.
Alright, sir. I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to call you in half an hour. Right?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I'm going to call you back in half an hour.
Oh. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye. So, I think they may have called me back in a half hour, and I didn't take the call. Did not take the bait. That's a scam call. I'm pretty sure everybody who's listening knows that, and pretty good chance you're going to get one. But what they will do is guide you through some things in a Windows computer that will look like they're terrible. They'll guide you to some places that, unless you're a computer guy, you've never been before, and there'll be all kinds of red X's and error messages and internal stuff that is in a Windows computer that's always there, normal stuff. And they will scare you by seeing all that and then get your credit card number and charge you money for fixing it. So thought I would play that for you. I get those all the time. My number should be flagged by now. What I like to do is keep them on the phone as long as I can. Bumble around, pretend I'm trying to follow their instructions, and I'm not quite getting it. Let me try that again. and just keep screwing up and keep them on the phone as long as possible until they give up, which they eventually do. Figuring, and I know this is, one of those one drop in the ocean things, that if I'm on with the guy for 15 minutes, that's 15 minutes are not on with you or somebody who they could possibly scam. Makes me feel better. Don't know that it actually accomplishes anything. Makes me feel better. All right, that's it for this episode of the Triangle Talk Show. Which one was this? Oh, Google's going to replace me. That's what the point of all that duplex thing was. They're coming out with computers that can just talk and fool us all. And eventually it's going to be me. Not fooled. Yeah, I might be fooled, but it will be the Google Talk Show. Who needs me when the computer can do it? No, that might be okay. I'll just sit back and enjoy. Thanks for watching and or listening. If you made it all the way to this end of the show, and we're talking about 5 or 6 people right now, maybe 10, sort of depends. If you tell everybody you know, go to the website, the Triangle Talk Show website, and there is a survey there that you can take. And let me know who you are. Not who you are by name, who you are by demographically identifiable group, age. It's going to ask how much money you make. I wish I could fine tune that so that it didn't do that. It's going to ask how much money you make. These are things that advertisers want to know. Because if I'm advertising a product that costs $25,000, I don't want to advertise that to somebody who only makes $25,000, because they're not going to save up all year to buy whatever it is I'm selling. A boat, a car, we'll finance. We all got to have a car, but luxury item. No advertisers on the show. I don't know. First of all, I don't know if there'll ever be a funding mechanism for the Triangle Talk Show. I imagine someday that there will be. It will be nice to make a little bit of money. Covering expenses is not going to be hard. I mean, all of this stuff here in the studio in the bonus room above the garage, studio in the bonus room above the garage, all this stuff is paid for, although if it breaks, I've got to replace it. So the ongoing expenses are a website, my internet bill, which is a little bit steep because I need extra connectivity that most people don't need. Maybe occasionally we'll get on the road and do something. So if we can sell a little bit of advertising, or maybe we'll go the Patreon model where you can contribute $1 a month. $1 a month might not be too bad. If we can get, 1,000 or 2 doing something like that, that'd be cool. That'd be almost a living. Supplement my Social Security because, I'm old. I could supplement my fixed income. That'll be cool. I think I had a Bill Clinton in there a little bit. Maybe. All right. Thanks for watching and or listening. Going to say goodbye to the YouTube and goodbye to the recording that becomes the audio feed. So goodbye to the YouTube. Over and out. Bing. Something binged. Over and out.